She was called stupid, but she was playing chess while they played checkers. In 1935, America, being underestimated was her greatest weapon. While her employers believed a black servant couldn't possibly outsmart them, she was carefully documenting every insult, every scheme, and every lie. What they never saw coming was how she'd use their own prejudice to bring them down. In the segregated South of the 1930s, Dorothy Miller took a position as a live-in domestic servant for the prominent Williams family in Charleston. The family patriarch, Judge Harold Williams, was known publicly as a pillar of the community, a man of justice and moral standing. Behind closed doors, however, he was something else entirely. "5 a week and you'll sleep in the back room," Mrs. Williams had told her during their brief interview. "And don't think about taking Sundays off. We host after-church luncheons." Dorothy was 26 years old when she first entered the Williams Grand Home on Battery Street. With limited opportunities for educated black women, domestic service was one of the few available jobs. Despite Dorothy having completed high school, something rare for any woman of her time, particularly a black woman from the rural South. From her first day, Dorothy noted the disconnect between the Williams public and private faces. Judge Williams, who spoke eloquently about the Constitution in his courtroom, would return home and mock her, speaking slowly as if she couldn't understand basic instructions. "Can you understand me, girl?" he would say, exaggerating each syllable while his wife laughed. "These colored folks just don't have the capacity for complex thought." What the Williams family didn't know was that Dorothy had been keeping a detailed journal since she was 12 years old. Her grandmother, a former enslaved woman, had taught her the power of documentation. "They will never believe our word over theirs," her grandmother had told her, "but written words have power that can't be denied." Each night, after 16-hour workdays, Dorothy would meticulously document the family's behavior. The racial slurs, the stolen wages when Mrs. Williams claimed Dorothy broke something expensive, and the way they treated her like furniture when their friends visited. But she didn't just record mistreatment, she noted patterns. The judge was embezzling court funds. Dorothy realized this when she overheard arguments between the judge and his wife about mysterious deposits and withdrawals. She noticed the judge hiding paperwork whenever visitors arrived unexpectedly. One night, while cleaning his study, she discovered ledgers with 2 different sets of numbers. Dorothy also began noticing the Williams' son Thomas, stealing from his mother's purse and jewelry box. Instead of confronting him, she observed silently, documenting dates, times, and items taken. But Dorothy's most significant discovery came 3 months into her employment. While serving dinner to the judge and his colleagues, she overheard them discussing how they had convicted an innocent black man named James Washington of a crime committed by the son of a wealthy donor to the judge's re-election campaign. "Washington will serve the time, and no one will be the wiser," the judge had said, raising his glass in a toast while Dorothy stood silently in the corner, mentally recording every word. That night, she made a decision. She would need evidence beyond her word. Dorothy began a careful campaign of collection, copying document snippets when cleaning the office, noting down conversations verbatim, and even recovering discarded papers from the trash that contained damning information. For months, she built her case meticulously. The Williams family never suspected a thing. After all, in their minds, she was just a simple servant girl who couldn't possibly understand the complexities of legal matters or financial fraud. Dorothy's opportunity came when she learned that a federal investigation into judicial corruption was happening in neighboring counties. Through her church connections, she managed to contact a northern journalist who had been reporting on civil rights issues in the South. With her documentation organized chronologically and by type of offense, Dorothy provided evidence not only of the judge's personal racism, but of his professional corruption and the wrongful conviction of James Washington. The journalist published a series of explosive articles. At first, the judge dismissed them as fabrications from an angry colored girl. But Dorothy had been too thorough, her documentation too detailed. When federal investigators followed up on the claims, they found her evidence matched perfectly with discrepancies they were already investigating. Within 6 months, Judge Williams faced federal charges. James Washington was released from prison after serving 2 years for a crime he didn't commit. And Dorothy Miller, the simple servant girl, had orchestrated it all through patience, intelligence, and the power of documentation. Dorothy's story wasn't widely told in her time. Newspapers focused on the corrupt judge rather than the brilliant woman who exposed him. But within Black communities across the South, her story spread through whispered conversations and church gatherings, a blueprint for resistance in a time when direct confrontation could be deadly. Dorothy Miller later became a community organizer and informal legal advocate, helping others document injustices when the legal system failed them. Her techniques would later influence early civil rights documentation strategies in the 1950s and 60s. In a world designed to keep her powerless, Dorothy Miller turned the very stereotypes used against her into tools for justice. She wasn't just a servant who outsmarted her boss, she was a strategist who understood that sometimes victory doesn't come from open battle, but from carefully laid plans and the power of being underestimated. The Williams family had played checkers, making obvious moves of domination and control, but Dorothy had been playing chess all along, seeing several moves ahead and waiting for precisely the right moment to say checkmate. Wait a minute, hit that subscribe button to support more untold histories like this one.